Oh.
Bad genetics.
An unfortunate thing.
Hatzlachel, good afternoon. I'm going to pass out these textbooks. And keep in mind.
Hatzlachel is the good afternoon.
Good day, good afternoon.
Good night. What was good night?
Hatzlachel. Hatzlachel. Let me write that on the board. Let's jump into, and I think your sister's on her way, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
E-box?
let's do this real quick. E-bots?
E-box? Okay.
Grandchild?
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, let's.
Yeah, you missed that one.
I know. Sorry.
Just kidding. I was very excited to learn that my grandson or my granddaughter tees Hochlahale Todd E-box.
Teed E-bots. Teed E-bots.
Okay. How do I say the girl one now, though? Is it?
So
I know
you
it's
would
TS,
say
but
seed E-bots.
seed E-box. Oh, okay. I'm missing the I. That's why.
Teed. Oh. Teed E-bots.
Teed E-box.
Seed E-bots, granddaughter. Teed E-bots, grandson.
So how does it become Todd
When it's your.
when it's yours?
So these are my. Remembering that the D is for my. So if you're talking about yours, seed E-bots, teed E-bots. But if I start asking you about yours, I'm going to ask us chal Todd E-bots. How's your grandson? Us chal Sad E-bots. How's your granddaughter?
Okay.
Guacuizda at Todd E-bots. What's your grandson's name? Guacuizda at Sad E-bots. What's your granddaughter's name? So if I'm talking to you about yours, you're going to hear me say Todd and Sad. And then when you respond, you're saying seed and teed.
Okay.
Yep.
Seed and teed.
Mhm.
Okay. I was missing the I and I didn't write any of that down on Thursday, so I was
Okay.
like, dang it.
Well, sometimes it's good to write. Sometimes it's good to just remember it because you'd got the E-bots.
Yeah, I was practicing my whole
Hey.
ride up towards work because I was like excited about it.
All right. So Joya asked, what's the difference between good afternoon and good evening? So we're going to start out with morning. So if you want to practice something in the morning when you're coming into work, when you're just getting up in the morning, saying hello to everybody in the house, you're going to say hot dadatu. Hot dadatu, good morning. This is a good example of things that you can let go of in English and you become a teacher at that moment. That's where you guys need to embrace that you are a teacher. You are learning this language, but you're also a teacher because you will have teaching moments. When you start using hot dadatu, that's your chance to say, oh, well, hot means good. Dadatu means morning. Good morning. Hot dadatu. Hot dadatu. So dadatu is morning. Then we have good day. Hot slachel. This lach has to do with light. Lach means light. A lamp, what they called a lamp was lachshad. Lachshad. It's light with a foot because lamps used to have a foot in order to hold them up. So lach comes from the root of light. Lach. Hot slachel. And this ale means becoming. Hot slachel. And then we have, why do these opposites have to sound so close? Slachel. Slachel. Slach is dark. Slach. lach. So lach is light. Lach is dark. Dada 2 is morning. Hot Dada 2. Let me hear you guys.
Dada 2.
Hot Dada 2. Morning. It ain't good, but it's a morning. No.
Hey, sometimes that's the way I
Hey.
feel.
Hey.
Where you been?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that one again. Hot Dada 2.
Hot Dada 2.
Hot Dada 2.
Hot attitude.
Now let's say good day. Hot Slachel. Hot Slachel. And then let's say good night. Hot Slachel. Hot Slachel. Okay. So remember, lach is light, slach is dark. Slachel, 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 slachel. Hey, good morning, good day, good night.
What was the ill again?
Becoming. So when it's becoming dark, becoming light.
Okay.
These textbooks that I'm handing out, we're not necessarily going to follow it. It's a great resource of information of stuff that we will touch on throughout 101. Some of the lessons that we go through is asking me to refer to the textbook, so we had to do some digging to get the most up-to-date textbook that goes along with this 101 curriculum. And what you'll notice is if you thumb through it, you'll notice that some of the information that's in here was covered in the PowerPoint that we went over. Did I not give you one? Sorry.
Thank you.
Some of it was covered in that PowerPoint that we did, I think on the second day when we did the intro to Lushootseed PowerPoint. We did that, right? Yeah?
No. PowerPoint? For what?
PowerPoint? Did we do a PowerPoint?
This one?
Yeah. Intro to Lushootseed, where we talked about where Lushootseed's spoken.
Where you showed us a map and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Okay. I've showed the intro to Lushootseed a couple times in the beginning of this year at different gatherings, so I had to make sure that we had done it here. So you'll notice that some of this information within the textbook is stuff that we covered when we went over that PowerPoint. So this map activity that we're going to do is just a review to reinforce where the Lushootseed speaking tribes are at. And if they're not listed on there already, then it'll give you a chance to list them. So this map is of the Salish Sea. Oh, yeah. TBC, thank you for the reminder. And I feel bad because I did not send an email out to anybody. So if anybody's tuning in online and following us, I will get these documents out to you guys. Looking at this map, we can just review where the Lushootseed speaking territories are. In general, when we look at it, Lushootseed is spoken along the western part of the mountain range down to the water of the Salish Sea, and then it covers a couple of territories within this inner part of the inlet. So starting up north, way north, we have the Upper Skagit, the Skagitobsh, the Upper Skagit peoples. They are the northern most group that speaks Lushootseed. And then we don't have it listed on here, but if you were to follow, and also keeping in mind, when we view the map this way, if you follow down the Skagit River, the people at the lower end of the river are the Swadubsh, the Swinomish, Swadubsh. So we don't have them listed on there, but they are at the bottom of the Skagit River, the lower end, the Swadubsh, our Swinomish relatives. Up in the mountains, we have the Sakshuatl, the Sakbu, and the Soyakbu, the Sakshuatl people. And then coming down, we have the Stolaquabsh, the Stillaguamish. And you notice that the next group follows along what river territory? So if you think about us, where we're at, the Snohobsh. So the Snohobsh river system, where the water falls, like where it flows into the salt water, that's the Snohobsh, the Snohomish territory, which is why this reservation was chosen. This reservation is very key to the territory of the Snohomish people. If we look at where the river flows, this village site right here, how many of you guys are familiar with Legion Park in North Everett? And it has that beautiful lookout. What I like is I like taking my kids there, and then they get to look across the water and they get to see Grandma and Grandpa's house from that lookout. That was a major village for the Snohobsh, for the Snohomish people.
Is that why they have signs there with their language on them?
Yeah,
Oh,
yep.
okay.
So what we have there is it's Hibolb Duft Ashab. Hibolb Duft Ashab. So at that lookout, Hibolb Duft Ashab. This part, Ashab, means observe, to observe something. This daf means a place where, a means by which, or a reason why. In this particular name here, it means the place where they observe. The village was the Hibolb village. And that village, I encourage you guys to go there. It's one of my favorite places to look out across our territory. That lookout, that space that they chose there is because they could see throughout our Snohomish territory to the little villages that were all along the water. So Hibolb lookout, Hibolb Duft Ashab, you can see Priest Point. You can see Mission. You can see Camino Head. You could see Hat Island. You could see down towards Mukilteo. You can see this huge area. And they would be able to, it was a warrior village. So they were the ones that had to look out on all of these little smaller villages. And they could send signals to let them know if they saw intruders coming within the waterways. So it's a very, very sacred and very important place for our Snohomish people. So that lookout was a very important place for us. And then you look at our reservation, that's right here. And that's right where, that's the land where the Snohomish River meets the salt water. So for us, the salt water was just as important as the fresh water, and we had the ability to travel from the salt water on up into the fresh water. So the Snohomish territory is right here where Tulalip is at. And you can barely see it, but can you guys see Tulalip Bay on there? If you look really, really close,
Yep.
you can see Mission, Skyux Mission, and you can see Tulalip Bay. Now, from Snohomish north, from Snohomish this way, those are all the northern speaking tribes. So we are right in the middle. Notice we have all the northern groups up here, and then the southern speaking tribes, they're the next ones that we'll cover. So the next water system over, the next river over is the Snoqualmie. Snoqualmie. The Snoqualmie. Snoqualmie. When we talk about the relationships between tribes, like how the Skagit has the Swiatubj, they have their relationship where they share that same water system. The same goes for the Snohomish and the Snoqualmie. So we have those ties. We have that lineage. We are strongly connected with the Snoqualmie. Which is why, like, you can see that water system coming together. And that's one of the reasons why at the signing of the treaty, the Snoqualmie and the Snohomish were placed here on the reservation. And then another one that splits off, that got absorbed within, is the Skykomish, the Skeowabj. So we don't have them listed on here. So going past the Snoqualmie, it shows the Duwamish River. The Duwamish River, because of Seattle being built, the Duwamish River is no longer long enough to be considered a river. We also don't have listed on here Buckleshooth. Buckleshooth. What is Buckleshooth known for? What river?
White River.
The White River. So the White River, Green River, and the Duwamish River, I believe that one was formerly called the Black River. But it's no longer long enough to be listed and placed on a map. But pre-contact, those were three of the river systems. So we went from Snoqualmie, Buckleshooth, and then the Puyallup, Puyallupabj. Puyallupabj. Where did I put that map? I like this map. Puyallupabj. And I really like seeing the map this way, the way that our ancestors viewed the land in relation to going upriver, downriver, up to the mountain, out to the salt water. So Puyallupabj, people at the bend of the river. People at the bend of the river. Puyallup. White River. And then our relatives way down here in the Olympia area right before Olympia is our Squaliabj. Squaliabj. Our Nisqually relatives. So at the time of contact, they would have been Nohsqualiamsh. Nohsqualiamsh. So that Nohs turned into Nis. Nisqually, and then they dropped this part. Nisqually. So that could have been pronounced at that time Nusqually. Nusqually. And that's how the English form got written to Nisqually.
Interesting.
Hey. I think that's one of my favorite things, to build that relationship with the territory, is looking at the way that these territories and these river systems were pronounced pre-contact. So at the time of contact, how did it get written down? What sounds did we notice they just couldn't write down? So they were either lost, or they, without them knowing how important this is for a group of people, they just dropped it off. But our groups today pick those endings back up and make sure that we utilize them.
What was the alms for?
This would have been the obj. So omsh.
Oh, instead of like the shtahov.
Yeah,
like
yep.
Alms. Okay.
So it would have been omsh, which became obj, ubj. So all of those are a group of people. Okay. Then we have right here. How many of you guys have been to Little Creek? Little Creek Casino.
Yep.
Hey. That is our Squach Sunamsh. Squach Sunamsh. And that's our Squaxin relatives. Squaxin. So they are part of the Lushootseed speaking territory. They're right here. And then we have our Soquabsh. Soquabsh. Our Suquamish. So keeping these in mind, we'll write these down. So this map is numbered. I'm going to try to get you guys a copy of this one too, because I like how the rivers are highlighted, which really shows the connection to how important having a source of water was. Why do you think it was important to be by a water source? Food, water. What else? Transportation. How did we travel? Canoe. We traveled by canoe. So you need a water source in order to travel. You need to be able to travel from point A to point B. So seeing the connection between all of these water sources, and then understanding the connections, the intertribal connections. The Skagit had to have a relationship with the Sakbiu and the Soyakbiu. They had to have good relationships because they're sharing water systems, whether it's trade relations. So if the Sakbiu and Soyakbiu didn't really have direct access to come down and travel to the saltwater, having trade relationships. So they would be able to get some of the sources of food that they could harvest here and share it with the Skagit that are maybe here at the lower end, and also having that relationship with the Swedubj, with the Swinomish, that are right here based around mainly the saltwater. So making sure that you have those good intertribal relationships. That also brings up the discussion of marriage, the marriage customs, and making sure that if somebody had a good source here, why would they want to be able to intermarry? Why would they want to make sure that a high class family from here intermarried with a high class family from here? Because of the different foods. And then you look at, okay, it's a little bit colder up here. The temperature difference provides different foods, different traditional foods that grow in different areas. So intermarriage could be between these closer to the mountain groups, because they may have had different foods here than they did up here. So all of those important intertribal relationships, and we see the struggle still today with our intertribal relationships based on access to foods, access to resources. So it still is, it becomes more of an issue when we don't remember why it was so important for us to work together and why it was so important for us to have these strong relationships and understandings with one another. Okay, so starting with number two, we have the Skajatabj. Skajatabj. We have the Skagit, the upper Skagit. Skajatabj. Sali. We have the Sakbu. And the Soyakbu. Sakbu and Soyakbu. The Saksuadal. Kliu. We have the Swadubj. Swadubj. Coming from that root word gwud, which means low, lower. So the people at the lower end of the river, the Swadubj. Oh, I did put it on there. Bos. We have Stolaquabj. Stolaquabj. The Stillaguamish. Stolaquabj. The root of theirs is the word stolak for river. The people of the river. Stolak. What we notice is we're all people.
I was gonna say.
We're all people of the river.
Cool.
Yep. But I like how they really own that. And then there's like, well, has it happened in a while? The Festival of the River? Hasn't happened?
We haven't done that in quite a few years.
Dang it.
I know.
Since
Nope.
the pandemic?
Yeah, the pandemic happened and then they just haven't started it back up again. So
Are they gonna?
depends on who's in charge. I think it's definitely been like something they've talked about.
Yeah. People still ask about Tulalip doing the Veterans Powwow. And that has not taken place in years. But that will not take place. They will not pick it back up. Okay, for Salats, this is our Sdohobj territory. And what's unique is this is where the Tulalip, the Tulalip Reservation is at. Sdohobj. Yalats is Sdoqualbu. Sdoqualbu. Snoqualmi. Snoqualmu. Snoqualmu is how they would have pronounced it. Snoqualmu. Which is where you somewhat pick up Snoqualmi.
It's Sdoqualbi.
Sdoqualbu.
Sdoqualbi.
Sdoqualbu.
What was 4?
Stolaquabj. Stolaquabj, which would have been pronounced Stolaguamj. Stolaguamsh.
I'm part is Snoqualmie.
Oops.
My mom's grandpa, Indian chief, he was half Snoqualmie.
Skagit. I don't know. We're not really Swinomish, but Grandma was the old Swinomish, but she was upper Skagit. Yeah, back then. And then Snohomish and Squamish.
We used to, cause the shrine, we used to come up through Sauk, through the mountains, or go through the North Bend area and trade.
Okay. I don't know if we want to get controversial today.
Might
It's
as
always
well.
touchy.
Listen to Bob. Might as well.
Might as well.
Controversial.
Bob runs. Bob's running with this one.
Tuluil? Is that what it is? Tuluil?
Which one?
Tuluil? Is it Tuluil? No?
Where are you at?
I'm thinking of Run. What is Run?
Oh, Talawil.
Tulawil.
Talawil Bob. Talawil Bob. Bob, are you trying to record us getting controversial?
It's already being recorded.
So it's already being recorded.
I deny it.
Oh, the Duwamish, is that what you're
Eh.
controversial? You mean my crazy family?
Look at you bringing that camera up too, Bob.
I just take a picture of the screen so I don't have to write it down.
So Dawamsh. Dawamsh. At the time of contact, it would have been Dawamsh, where you hear Dawamish.
I did something like
That's all I got to say about that.
I have to go ask around. I'm like, why is this controversial?
there,
You don't have to talk
It
about
just
it. You don't have to
became
talk about
controversial, so.
there's something,
Move.
something I knew
Huh?
about.
Nothing?
Okay, here we go. Buckle shoes.
I was gonna say, it doesn't have to do with the next one, does it?
Buckle shoes. So buckle shoes.
Well, and so our we're related to her.
Buckle shoes at the time of contact would have been pronounced muckle shoes. Muckle shoes, which is where you can start to hear muckle shoot. Buckle shoes. Muckle shoes. Practicing your.
Yeah. My mom was practicing that one. I don't know why. Or the
That's how we're related to Chiefs Seattle. Is through the Squamish
Our
family.
Poyalapabsh relative, people at the bend of the river.
Oh, she's the chair of Duwamish.
Was that the state?
It would have been Poyalapamsh, but they just dropped off that amsh. Poyalap. Poyalap. Darn it. Writing big. And I don't know if this can make it in the camera. I was gonna see how far I could push it. I believe they just call themselves Squaliabsh.
I run out of space. What's that? 9, 10.
Squaliabsh. Squally means grass or prairie. At the time of contact, they would have been called Nuhsqualiamsh. Nuhsqualiamsh. So what's interesting about this is they picked up Nuhsquali to name Nisqually. Nuhsquali. They dropped off the Amsh. And I don't think they call themselves the Duhsqualiabsh. I think they just call themselves Squaliabsh, which literally means the grass people, the prairie people, in relation to what that territory looks like. Oh, where's my stuff? Where's my stuff?
Squaliabs.
Squach sadabsh. Squach sadabsh. Which would have been oh, there we go. Squach sanamsh. Squach sadabsh. The squaxin would have been squach sanamsh. This is another one that they dropped off the Squachsen. Squachsen. So you can hear squaxin in the squachsen. And finally, our Soqabsh relatives. Would have been pronounced Soqamsh. Soqamsh, where you start to hear Soquamish. Soquamish. So there are many things that you could write for all of these. These are the Skagit, or I should be more specific. This is Upper Skagit. Sock.
Where's the lower Skagit?
Suwaddle. It's the Swanums. Swinomish. Stillaguamish. Snohomish. Unique with the Tulalip Reservation. Snoqualmie, Duwamish, Muckleshoot, Tulalip, Nisqually, Squaxin, and Suquamish.
So we also went by Snohoms.
Snohomish.
Snohom.
Snohomish. That's how it would have been pronounced, because notice all of these ones, the names that these territories are called today use D's and B's. At the time of contact, 200 plus years ago, they would have used M's and N's. So that's what that shift is. The shift is
Why did it
change.
shift?
Huh?
Why did it shift?
Language pressure is believed to be one of the reasons that there was a sound change, like English, French, like trade languages coming in, believed to pressure the language away from M's and N's. But it's also kind of like a mystery because we have languages within the same language family that still use their M's and N's. So up north, when we have other Salish language families, they still use M's and N's. And they don't use B's and D's. So down here where we say badat, up north in some of those language families, they say manat, manat. And you can actually witness that on Canoe Journey. I believe there's a canoe family called the manat. Or they might even just pronounce it manat. There's different variants of it. But they still use their M's and N's up there where we did this shift to D's and B's. So I don't know of any word that has both M and N or D and B. Because it would have been one or the other. They would have switched it. And the one word that we hold on to that still has the M's and the N's. Meatman. Meatman. Little. Meatman. Okay, that took up a whole lot of time of me rambling. Talking about the place names. I do love this part though, because the more we can connect ourselves within this territory, like this is our territory, this is the language that our people spoke. We can talk about how our lineage connects us to all of these water sources. Like the more you start to research it and the farther back you go within your lineage. Growing up, I knew that I was Snohomish. I knew I was Snohomish. I knew Snohomish and Snoqualmie. I think those are the two that I remember hearing growing up from my grandparents, is that we are Snohomish and we are Snoqualmie. The older I got, and I'm talking recently, like when I was getting my bachelor's degree and I had an opportunity to do a project on my genealogy, that's where it really started to expand. I knew that on my mother's side of my family, we came from Saxuatl, from Sakbuf and Soyatbuf. And then learning the relationship between Sakbuf, Soyatbuf, and Skagit-Tabj, and knowing that our lineage also connects us to Upper Skagit. So for me, when I do my introduction, I acknowledge Snohomish, Snoqualmie, Saxuatl, Skagit, Puyallup, because I know we have a Puyallup connection as well. But the more you start to look into your lineage, you can see how much you're connected with all of these water sources, all of these different territories. And then you learn why. Then you learn why it was important to have those connections. So we went over each of the speaking groups, learning about these at the time of contact. Who were these areas inhabited by? What water sources did they have? How many groups to this day speak Lushootseed? We did that little reminder about Snohomish being the hinge. So we're right in between. We're mostly northern Lushootseed, but we do have some southern Lushootseed influence. We went over that Abj ending, Abj or Ubj, which means group of people. Or Amj, Umj. And this is a group of people. But we also have that buh ending. and that's a group of living things. And I like that broadened because that talks more about our connection with all of the things around us in our territory. Having, like, we all know that everything around us has a life and has existence. So that buh ending, one of my favorite group of living things, group of living beings to talk about is the guadbuh, the native blackberry. And understanding that that native blackberry, it's not those big bushes that have taken over my whole property with those big blackberries. It's the group of living beings that are close to the ground. And those are those native blackberries, those little tiny ones that are so flavorful, and that flavor is so unique. This year when we went berry picking, Thomas and I were barely able to pick enough to gift to mom and dad so mom could make dad his yearly blackberry pie. So we know how strong that relationship is and how that type of food means so much to our people. I mean, I remember being younger and everybody would be going around picking berries, and grandma and grandpa would just, every person that showed up at the door, they didn't care how much it was, they were buying those berries, they were putting them away, they were making jams and making pies. But we have to, give acknowledgement, sorry, I forgot that, about the buh, the group of living beings. We also talked about the sound change. It's not exactly clear what happened to the language that created this shift, and why did it change for us versus up north where they still held on to the M's and the N's. And I'm really curious to hear other languages to see if they have words that have M's and N's together. So we speak a Salish, we speak a Coast Salish, there's interior Salish, there's Straits. On the peninsula, there's Klallam and Twana, and I haven't made the time to really look into those languages to see what those differences are. I know that there are words that are shared in multiple languages, but I'm not positive on what their use of M's and N's, D's and B's are compared to what our language had a shift. All right. Uhoyovcha. We made it to 1250. That was a lot of info. For this book, like I said, the first section is things that we already talked about in that PowerPoint, and things that we will kind of reinforce a little bit more as we go through. There are some words that we've gone over or that we will start using more as we build our language base. So you can thumb through it. And then some of it is stuff that we will get to. So instead of just giving you guys a piece of paper at a time for it, we just went for it and printed some out. And for those tuning in, if anybody's watching, we'll send those out in an email. We are all done. Tigui tabutlid.
What do you say?